Wood paced the field, staring around with the team behind them. Finally, he saw the front doors of the castle open in the distance, and the rest of the school spilling into the lawn. "Locker rooms," said Wood tersely. None of them spoke as they changed into their scarlet robes. Harry wondered if they were feeling like he was, as though he'd eaten something extremely wiggly for breakfast. It seemed like no time at all. Wood was saying, "Okay, it's time, let's go." We walked onto the field in a tidal wave of noise. 3/4 of the crowd were cheering for scarlet rosettes, waving scarlet flags with the Gryffindor lion on them, brandishing the banners with slogans like "Go Gryffindor" or "Lions for the Cup." Behind the Slytherin goalpost, however, 200 people were wearing green. Silver serpents slithering glittered on their flags. Professor Snape sat in the very front row, wearing green like everyone else, had a very grim smile. "And here are the Gryffindors," yelled Lee Jordan, who was acting as commentator as usual. "Potter, Bell, Johnson, Spinner, Weasley, and Wood. Widely acknowledged as the best team at Hogwarts has seen for a good few years." These comments were drowned out by the tide of boos from the Slytherin and at the Slytherin end. "And here comes the Slytherin team led by Captain Flint. He's made some changes in the lineup, it seems. He's going for size rather than skill." More boos from the Slytherin crowd. However, Harry thought Lee had a point. Malfoy was easily the smallest person on that Slytherin team. The rest of them were enormous. "Captain, shake hands," said Madam Hooch. Flint and Wood approached each other, grasping each other's hands very tightly. It looked as though each was trying to break the other's fingers. "Mount your brooms," Madam Hooch said. 3, 2, 1. The sound of her whistle was lost in the roar from the crowd. 14 brooms rose in the air. Harry felt his hair fly back off his head. His nerves left him. In the thrill of the flight, he glanced around, saw Malfoy on his tail, and sped off, searching for the snitch. "And it's Gryffindor's possession," Alicia Spinner, Gryffindor with the quaffle, heading straight to the Slytherin goalpost. "Looks good, Alicia! Oh, no! Quaffle intercepted by Warrington. Warrington of Slytherin tearing up the field, and wham! Nice bludger work there, George Weasley." Warrington drops the quaffle. It's caught by Johnson. Gryffindor back. Point possessions. Come on, Angelina. Nice serve around Montague. Duck, Angelina, that bludger. She scores 10-0 to Gryffindor. Angelina punched the air and roared. At the end of the field, the sea of scarlet was screaming in delight. "Ouch!" Angelina was nearly thrown from her broom by Malchus Flint. Went smashing into her. "Sorry," said Flint, as the crowd booed. "Sorry, didn't we see you there?" A moment later, Fred Weasley chucked the beater's club back at Flint's head. Flint's nose smashed into the handle of his broom, and he began to bleed. "That will do," shrieked Madam Hooch, zooming between them. "Penalty shot for Gryffindor for unprovoked attack on their chaser. Penalty shot to Slytherin for deliberate damage to their chaser." "Come off it, miss," howled Fred. But Madam Hooch blew her whistle, and Alicia flew forward to take her penalty. "Come on, Alicia!" yelled Lee in the silence. He had second on the crowd. "Yes, she's beaten the keeper, 20-0 to Gryffindor." Harry turned the fireball sharply, watching Flint, still bleeding freely, flying forward to take Slytherin penalty shot. Wood was hovering over the front Gryffindor goalpost, and his jaw clenched. "Course Wood's superb, keeper," Lee Jordan told the crowd. Flint waited for Madam Hooch's whistle. "Superb, very difficult to pass. Very difficult. Yes! I don't believe it. He saved it!" Relieved, Harry zoomed away, gazing around for the snitch. Still making sure he caught every word of Lee's commentary, it was essential that he hold Malfoy off the snitch until Gryffindor was more than 50 points up. Gryffindor in possession. No Slytherin possession. No, back to Gryffindor possession. And it's Katie Bell. Katie Bell forward. Gryffindor That was deliberate! Montague, a Slytherin chaser, had swerved in front of Katy, and instead of seizing the quaffle, had grabbed her head. Katy cartwheeled in the air and managed to stay on her broom, but dropped the quaffle. Madam Hooch's whistle rang out again, and she soared over to the Montague and began shouting at him. A minute later, Katy had another. 30-0. Take that, you dirty cheating Jordan, if you can't commentator is unbiased way. I'm telling it like it is, Professor. Harry felt a huge jolt of excitement. He had seen the snitch. It was shimmering at the foot of one of the end of the Gryffindor goalposts, but it mustn't catch it yet. But if Malfoy saw it, faking to look sudden concentration, Harry pulled up his firebolt and sped off towards the Slytherin end. It worked. Malfoy was hearing after him, clearly, thinking Harry had seen it. The snitch. Whoosh. One of the bludgers came streaking past Harry, right past his ear, hit the gigantic Slytherin beater Derek, and then whoosh! A second bludger grazed Harry's elbow. The other beater was Bowl. He was chasing it, closing in. Harry had been fleeting glimpse of Boyle and Derek zooming toward him, clubs raised. He turned the firebolt upward in the last second, and Bolt and Derek collided with shrieking crunch. Ha ha ha! Yelled Lee Jordan as the Slytherin beaters lurched away from each other, clutching their heads. Too bad, boys. You need to get up earlier than that to beat a firebolt. And it's Gryffindor's possession again, and Johnson takes the quaffle. Flint alongside her, poke in the eye. Angelina. It was a joke, Professor. It was a joke. Oh no, Flint in possession. Flint flying towards Gryffindor goalpost. Come on now, Wood, save! But Flint had scored. There was an eruption of cheers from the Slytherin, and Lee swore so badly that Professor McGonagall tried to tug the magical megaphone away from him. Sorry, Professor, sorry. Won't happen again. So Gryffindor in the lead, 30 points to 10. Gryffindor in possession. It's turning into the dirtiest game Harry had ever played in England. That Gryffindor had taken such an early lead. The Slytherins were now rapidly resorting to any means to take the quaffle. Bull hit Alicia with a club, and he tried to say he thought she was a bludger. George Weasley elbowed Boyle in the face in retaliation. Madam Hooch awarded both teams penalties, and Will pulled off another spectacular save, making it 40-10. The snitch had disappeared again. Malfoy was still keeping close to Harry, so he scored over the match, looking around for it. Once Gryffindor was 50 points ahead, Katy scored 50-10. Fred and George Weasley were swooping around her, clubs raised, in case any of the Slytherins were thinking of revenge. Boyle and Derek took advantage of Fred and George's absence with both bludgers at Wood. They caught him in the stomach, one after the other, and he rolled over in the air, clutching his broom, completely winded. Madam Hooch was beside herself. You do not attack the keeper unless the quaffle's within the scoring area, she shrieked at Boyle and Derek. Gryffindor penalty. And Angelina scored 60-10. Moments later, Fred and George pulled the bludger at Warrington, knocking the quaffle out of his hands. Alicia seized it and put it in through the Slytherin goal. 70-10. The Gryffindor crowd below was screaming itself hoarse. Gryffindor with 60 points in the lead, and if Harry caught the snitch, the cup was theirs. Harry could almost feel his eyes following him as he roared around the field, high above the rest of the game. Malfoy was speeding along behind him, and then he saw it, the snitch, sparkling 20 feet above him. Harry put a huge burst of speed, and the wind was roaring in his ears. He stretched out his hand, and suddenly the firebolt was slowing down. Horrified, he looked around. Malfoy had thrown himself forward and grabbed a hold of the firebolt tail and was pulling it back. You! Harry was angry enough to hit Malfoy, but couldn't reach Malfoy. Was panting with the effort holding onto the firebolt, but his hands were sparkling maliciously. He had achieved what he wanted to do. The snitch had disappeared again. Penalty to Gryffindor! I've never seen such tactics. Madam Hooch screeching and scooching up to Malfoy, sliding back in the Nimbus 2001. You cheating scum! Lee Jordan was howling into the microphone, dancing out of Professor McGonagall's reach. You filthy, cheating Professor McGonagall didn't even bother to tell him off. She was just actually shaking her finger in Malfoy's direction. Her hat had fallen off too, and she was shouting furiously. Alicia took Gryffindor's penalty, but she was so angry she missed by several feet. The Gryffindor team was losing concentration. The Slytherins were delighted by Malfoy's foul on Harry and were being spurred to great heights. Slytherin in possession. Slytherin heading for the goal. Montage scores. Lee groaned 70-20 to Gryffindor. Harry was now marking Malfoy so closely their knees kept hitting each other. Harry wasn't going to let Malfoy anywhere near the snitch. Get out of it, Potter, Malfoy yelled. Frustration. He tried to turn and found Harry blocking them. Angelina Johnson gets the quaffle the Gryffindor. Come on, Angela, come on! Harry looked around. Every single Slytherin player, apart from Malfoy, was streaking up the pitch towards Angelina, including the Slytherin keeper. They were all going to block her. Harry wheeled his firebolt around and bent so low that he was trying flat on the handle. He kicked forward like a bullet. He shot towards the Slytherin. Ah! They screamed as the firebolt zoomed towards them. Angelina was the clear. She scores! She scores! Gryffindor led by 80 points to 20. Harry, who had almost pelted headlong into the stands, skidded to a halt. Mid-air, reversed his broomstick into the middle of the field, and then he saw something that made his heart stand still. Malfoy was diving, looking triumph in his face. There, a few feet above the grass, was a tiny golden glimmer. Harry urged the firebolt downward, but Malfoy was miles ahead. Go, go, go! Harry urged his broom. He was gaining on Malfoy. Harry flattened himself on the broom handle, and Boyle bludgeoned him. He was at Malfoy's ankle. He was level. Harry threw himself forward, taking both hands out of his broom, and knocked Malfoy's arm out of the way, and yes! He pulled out of the dive, his hand in the air, and in the stadium exploded. Harry soared above the crowd, the odd ringing in his ears. The golden snitch was held tight in his fist, beating its wings hopelessly against the fingers. Then Wood was speeding towards him, half blinded by tears. He seized Harry around the neck and sobbed uncontrollably into his shoulder. Harry felt two large thumps as Fred and George hit them from Angelina's, Alicia's, and Katie's voices. We won the cup! We won the cup! Tangled together in a many-armed hug, the Gryffindor team sank, yelling hoarsely back to the earth. Wave upon wave of crimson supporters poured out over the barriers onto the field. Hands were raining down on the backs of Harry and had a confused impression of noise and bodies pressing on him. Then the rest of the team, were hoisted onto the shoulders of the crowd, thrust into the light. He saw Hagrid, plastered with crimson rosettes. You beat him, Harry! You beat him! Wait till I tell Buckbeak. There was Percy, jumping up and down like a maniac, old dignity forgotten. Professor McGonagall was sobbing harder even than Wood, wiping her eyes with an enormous Gryffindor flag. And there, fighting their way toward Harry, were Ron and Hermione. Words failed them. They simply beamed. Harry was borne toward the stands where Dumbledore stood waiting with an enormous Quidditch cup. If there had been a Dementor around, as a sobbing Wood passed Harry the cup, as he lifted it into the air, Harry felt he could have produced the world's best Patronus.